Perfect. So, everybody, for those who don't know, we're going to be talking to Mr. 2020. We've been talking about this interview for some time, and so we finally made time to make it happen. So I'm excited, and we've kind of been corresponding back and forth. So I'm excited to see what you guys are going to take away from it. This guy, I know of people that have worked with him, and he's really impacted their lives. I mean, you can't even believe some of the people. If I started naming off names, Jerry, Candace, I could go on, but the lives
Wow.
that have really been impacted by this man. So, and the thing that I've benefited from not even knowing 2020 is being able to go out to the web and pull up Neville information. And this guy has one of the largest Neville libraries of information that he's transcribed and so forth. So very appreciative, and everybody in the Neville Goddard community, you may not even know that you're pulling from his information, but it's a lot of information out there online by this man here. You've been doing this for a while. How did your journey start?
Wow. I tried to run away from Neville twice.
Okay.
But when I was a young boy, I grew up, I was born premature. I grew up on welfare. I walked to Catholic school. It was uphill both ways. My boogers froze in the winter, all that stuff. And somewhere along the way, a self-help book or two showed up in my house.
Okay.
And I think somebody lent them to my mom. And on the inside cover of, I think it was a Napoleon Hill and a Wayne Dyer book. And on the inside cover, it was stamped with something that said the corner bookstore, books 10 cents a piece. The problem, DeCarlo, was it was like a mile and a half through the cornfields to get there. And so I used to walk through the cornfields to get there because I'd been through the library books. I bought a few books retail. I was a poor kid. Books cost a lot of money. So I go to the corner bookstore, and one of the days where I'm there, what I'd do is I'd buy like 5, 10, 15, 20 books at a time, get them out of there before somebody else took them. I'm the only one in the store, but so I'm worried about it. And I'm going home one day, and I decided to get some ice cream, and I'm walking past the shops, and I'm reading a Neville book because it was one of the ones I got that week, and there was too much Bible in there for me. So I got some good stuff, ripped out a few pages, pitched it in the bin. Right then, let's fast forward to I'm 24 years old. I've got PTSD from being a hostage in those prison riots. And my wife at the time joins Amway.
Okay.
And my upline says, I got a book for you. Gave me a Neville Goddard book. I read it. Yeah. I remember hearing about this guy. And okay, I got some gold, but I gave it back. No big deal, right? A short time goes by, and I'm literally praying for truth or death. I had PTSD. I was all over the place. And I just figured I want truth at all costs. Yeah. And I started to experience what Neville called the promise. And then I remembered, there's this guy that wrote about it that was pretty weird and cool, but what was his name? Neville, Never, Goddard. Looked him up and been in love with his work ever since. He just shows, he explores the divine experience, the human experience of the divine condition in such a lovely way that whatever I do, it's fed my projects since the late 90s. So just awesome. Then in 2008, I put up a little website. Maybe you heard of it. Maybe it's 2006, freeneville.com.
Yeah.
And I put your name in the box, and we'll send you 221 free lectures. Email me if you need help. If they need help opening the lectures or whatever. People started asking me questions. I formed a Yahoo group. People kept asking questions, started doing phone calls. Here we are.
Wow. It's amazing when we find ourselves being of service, the opportunities that present themselves. Only thing you were doing was presenting. First of all, you found some information, you found it useful, and you supplied it to the world. And you said, let me know if I can help. And here we are today, we're talking. I've benefited from that website, the information. Often when I can't find particular Neville lectures, I go to your website to see if it's there. And often it's there. And I'm so appreciative because I know that you've taken time in certain cases and had to transcribe that work. It wasn't just
Absolutely.
magically there. And people don't always
Absolutely.
appreciate what's being presented there. So, and it's funny you said something. Likewise, when I first heard Neville about 20 years ago, I listened to it and I'm like, nah, this is a little too deep, a little too shady for me, whatever. And
Right, right.
I said, no, I can't do it now. And so I was intrigued, but I left it alone. So about 3 to 5 years later, life started happening and I started going deeper in my search. Neville showed up again. This time I took him more serious and he's been a part of my life ever since. So I do understand what you're saying. My biggest concern when I was thinking about Neville was because it contradicted my religious beliefs, many of them. And so
Absolutely.
it took me outside my comfort zone. And my first thought was, what are people going to say? What are my community? And so I understand exactly, even in some of your upbringing stories, it mirrored my own story. So I was like, I'm with you. Just the growing up on welfare. I was in alcoholism and so forth in my environment. So there was a lot of things and the walk to school and so forth. And then I didn't have to go through cornfields, fortunately, but I definitely empathize and understand where you're coming from. So I'm curious, and I've always been curious of this since I've heard the name 2020. Where did that come from? What motivated, what inspired that? Because I know you even did a name change. So
You bet.
what inspired 2020, Mr. 2020?
I got to tell you, changing your name to a number is insane. First of all, no, if you try to make a dinner reservation, nobody takes you seriously, right? So, so, uh, two of the bigger authors of my earlier life were Napoleon Hill and Neville Goddard.
Okay.
And so I was reading about Napoleon Hill, maybe listening to some of his recordings, and he was talking about Think and Grow Rich.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't know if you know this or not, but when he wrote the book, he couldn't come up with a title. And his publisher says, if you don't have a title by Thursday, I'm publishing it as Use Your Noodle to Get the Boodle. And Napoleon Hill went nuts. And he went to bed and he prayed for a title.
Yeah.
And he woke up with Think and Grow Rich. And that book has influenced countless US presidents, built all kinds of fortunes around the world, made a massive difference.
Yeah.
So I thought, this is a good idea. So I went to bed. And I just was praying and exploring, and I basically said to myself, all right, what's my Think and Grow Rich?
Gotcha.
So I woke up in the morning, and you know how Neville was in the army and he had that vision, do nothing? Well, I had that vision, and it said, change your name to 2020, the number of perfect vision, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'll ignore that. That's day two. I woke up, change your name to 2020. And so, you know what? I am all about, we came here with a vision. We need clarity, right? We need to focus. So I get it. There's a message here that I'm working my way through at the time. I ignored it again. Third day, it's still there. So I went to my wife at the time and says, I've got a severe problem, right? Yeah. And I told her and she goes, all right, that's cool. So I go to an attorney, get all the stuff. I have to get a background check. So you need fingerprints, right? Where they roll your fingers on the glue or the ink.
Mm-hmm.
So I go to the Pennsylvania State Police, Uniontown Barracks, sign in, purpose of your visit, want to change my name, here's my paperwork. About 4 minutes later, this 9-foot tall state trooper comes out. And he's like, who the hell wants to be a rap star? Put up my hand. He goes, this ought to be good. So we go in the back. He goes, what's this 2020 crap? And I said, listen, I'm an ex-cop. I'm an ex-prison guard. And I can tell you something. If people don't become my client, they become yours. And he's like, hold up. You got the barracks in. So I'm sitting down with about 15 state troopers, and we're talking. And I basically said, look, when people of any age don't have a vision, if they don't have focus and clarity about who they are, their life's going to suck.
Yeah.
And they're going to end up your clients. I know, I've been there, both sides of the bars. And they loved it. And of course, then we had to go to the judge, do the same thing. Why do you want to do this? Told him, and the judge is like, all right, that's pretty cool. I approve. And I did that. Wow, that went through when I was 41. I'm 57, 16 years ago, Carlo.
Wow.
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 And and eventually that moved me around the world.
You said something. You said you were in Pennsylvania.
Yes, sir.
How did you make the transition from Pennsylvania to Australia?
I'm lazy.
That explains it.
I'm lazy. And so I was reading, who's the guy? Dan Kennedy,
Okay.
the marketing guru. And
Yeah.
Dan says, you got to do market research. Unbelievable, right? So it's like radio. So I figure out, how can I cheat at this, right? And I figured I could do endless market research, or I could put up a little offer. And the little offer was, hey, I will do a custom neurolinguistic program recording for you for $100. Pay me money, send me an email. I'll send you an email back. We'll do this 3 times, and I'll make a custom recording for you. I'll anonymize it so I can resell it. But this will be a custom recording for you for $100. Thought it was pretty smart, right?
Mm.
A fellow named Mikey in Australia buys one. He shares it with his friend Leanne, who buys one. She shares it with her sister-in-law, who buys one. Turns out they're all members of a Forex trading group.
Okay.
Almost everybody in the group buys one. So now we're like 20 people. And they reach out and say, hey, what would it cost for us to fly you down here?
Hmm.
Train us for a weekend and stayed for 2 weeks. We worked out a price. I came down for 2 weeks, stayed for 3. And here's the kicker, DeCarlo. The third person that bought a recording from here, I married.
Wow.
Wow. I came down here on business. I thought I was doing market research, and I was. I figured if they're paying enough to get honest with me,
yeah,
that's my target market.
Yeah.
So I'm going to learn from them. I'm going to make sure I can bless them, and that's who I'll work with.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, wow, I met my wife, dude.
How long has that been?
That was, I flew down October 26th, 27th, one of those two, 2010.
Wow.
Which ironically was the same exact date where I was taken hostage in a prison riot. Or the same exact day. So in 1989, October 26, 27, I was a hostage. 2010, October 26, 27, I flew down here to a penal colony, essentially.
And, yeah, that's true. That's true.
Found a new level of freedom.
Wow. So I've had the benefit of coming across some of your marketing material. It's some of the best that I've come across. Is that when we talk about, and we'll talk about this a little bit later, the 3D program, do you implement was that the Dream Driven Day?
DreamDrivenDay.com. Yes.
Yeah. So is that some of the same information that you incorporate? Because like I said, I know people that have taken your course and literally their lives have been radically transformed, over that 30-day period. Is that some of the same information, the NLP and other stuff that you've utilized, or is it something totally different?
It's really the way I designed Dream Driven Day was if you and I could spend 30 days together, this is what we'll do.
Okay.
So the initial time I tried that was with manifestingmasterycourse.com. And that was 15 minutes a day on your own. Send me a weekly update. It's a lot of fun. Dream Driven Day came about because we noticed the one factor between those who really soar with this and those who struggle with it. The number one factor is those who soar have found a way to make it about themselves and their day.
Yeah.
And so I took, like, literally Dream Driven Day is only about 4, maybe 5 years old. So I took like 10 years of data from Manifesting Mastery and working with people there, and use that to design Dream Driven Day, and set it up with a small group on Facebook and all that stuff. And it's just been rocking it. Like, I thought we'd do it once or twice, and Heck, we've been doing it 4 to 6 times a year now
Okay.
since 2018, 2019, 2019, I think.
Do you have any scheduled? We kind of talked about it by way of email. Do you? I know you don't have anything currently, but do you have anything forecast in the future for those who'd be interested in that?
Absolutely. So looks like we're going to open up the doors probably the mid-April or so. So we'll
Okay.
probably begin the beginning of May.
Okay.
So just reach out to me and we'll put you on the list.
Okay. What I'll also do for those who are watching the video after we get done recording is I'll have a link in the bottom of the video to that site, that Dream Driven Day. I think it's .com. Whatever
Yep.
and whatever other links that Mr. 2020 will supply me, those links will also be down there, so you'll be able to contact and reach out to him. But like I said, I know of people who are now impacting lives because
You
of
bet.
going through that course. And so, and you can't even imagine how well they're doing. I don't want to get into other people's numbers, as it were, but I know people that have taken this course. And I personally don't recommend everybody's course because we don't always have the history. But like I said, I've seen the results of people that have gone through this course. I've been on calls with other people that were going through the course, even as we were on the call and we were doing something else. And they said, "Well, I'm going through the 30-day course and I've been through it and I'm going through it again." And, so it's one of those things that it's really impactful. So, like I said, I don't say this stuff lightly. This stuff really does impact one's life. Now, my question is I know how much you've invested in the knowledge of Neville Goddard. Do you also incorporate Neville principles into the 30-day course, or is that
Oh,
just, yeah?
continuously.
Okay,
Absolutely. It's all centered around the exploration of you using Neville's teachings with my weird NLP stuff,
gotcha.
which makes it really personal as well because
Yeah,
it's not just studying the stuff; it's exploring you. And that to me is where it really takes off because if we just study stuff, we become stuff.
yeah.
But if we can use something that's golden
Hmm.
to explore the sunshine we are,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. You said something, and you said it twice, and I want to go back to it. You said, talking about the stuff, but you said the core, and I think that many people miss this. I think that there's a whole bunch of people, Mr. Lindo called them hoarders of information,
Oh
but
yeah.
what they're not doing is applying. And I think that what I'm hearing in your program is you're getting the individual to focus on the individual as opposed
Yes.
to the material is great, but how does it apply to me? How does it make me feel day by day? How is my implementing this stuff changing my life? And I'm hearing as you keep pointing it back to the you, the individual, the I am in the individual, that's how you're getting the results because people are going not more material. But like I said, I see so many people, we say, man, I would love to get a recording of Neville live, or this teacher.
Yeah.
It's just
Yep.
more
Like that.
information.
Like that would matter.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's giving you everything.
You mentioned. I noticed there's 3 phases we can go through,
Yeah.
and the first phase is collecting.
Mhm.
And I've collected a lot of stuff
Yeah.
over the years, right? Yeah, I've got bookshelves,
Me too.
right? I know. The second phase is being a synthesizer.
Mhm.
But when you start bringing things together and using it to explore you, and the third phase is to be a synergizer,
Mhm.
where the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. And that's where the magic of wisdom and what we call dirt time comes in. Because if you're not getting dirty, you're not playing. You got to
Right.
play,
Yeah.
and that stretches who you are, so you become who you choose to be.
Yeah. I like that you've gone through this 3 phases because what I find is that most of us stay at the collector level. We never get where we're actually applying the information. And I think that that third level is even greater because now not only we're applying it, but we're giving it away. And I think that as we begin to give it away as teachers, whatever, we begin to learn ourselves. And I think that your greater learning has come from the people going through your program and you learning from them. So
You know,
we can go ahead.
in the Native American cosmology that I learned, there's a section called the Council Chiefs.
Mhm.
And the council chief has to remember that they're an Indian as well as a chief. And remembering and noticing from someone who's an Indian and a chief, there's this continuous process of of weaving together and discovery.
Yeah.
So every time I sit down with a client in person or online, mostly anymore, every single time we both walk away enriched.
Mm.
And to me, that's the big key. If I just lectured, it would bless no one.
True.
But exploring with uh, helps us both dance a different dance,
Yeah.
sing a different song.
Mm. And it sounds like as that takes place, it's never the same conversation, even with the same client. It seems like it's always a new dance. Is that correct?
Totally correct. So it's funny you mentioned to me earlier about people that keep doing the 30-day program.
Mm-hmm.
We've had people sign up and register and pay for Triple D.
Mm-hmm.
I think the most someone has done it is 12 times so far.
Wow.
I would have never expected that. But what we've discovered is the 30 lessons are always the same. The 4 calls are always unique, as well as the play in the Facebook group and the little 1 minute, the little 2 minute, 1 minute chats that we have. And that is where the gold is. Because every time you do it, you're different. Every time you do it with someone else, a different dance shows up. And so when it becomes about discovery, not data,
yeah,
you're always discovering a new layer of view, of life, of beauty, of friendship to give love to.
Yeah. Yeah. I get that. It's funny because I was for years I would habitually go through scripture. And the funny thing is if I started from Genesis to Revelation,
Yes.
it was never the same book. It was never the same book. But the book depended upon where I was at the time.
Yes.
I didn't get
Yes.
that at first. And I kept wondering, why does this book keep changing? It wasn't that the book was changing. I was changing. I was growing. I was evolving. And so with
Yes.
new information, that's why your person goes through 12 times, because he or she's not the same person. Depending upon what life events you're going through, what you're experiencing at the moment, you step into that 30-day course, you're taking we're not the same people. I mean, we're not even the same people we
Absolutely.
were yesterday. We think we are,
Absolutely.
and we
Not a
keep
chance.
acting like we are, but we're not. So it's
Yes.
very powerful. It's powerful. Yeah. So,
With
yeah.
the level of uniqueness that's available to us, and that truly is, to assert that we're the same we were yesterday is divine comedy. Because I guarantee, so we've been looking at doing this chant for, I don't know, 7, 8 months.
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm not who I was 7, 8 months ago, and neither are you.
Absolutely.
I
Absolutely.
can't imagine what the conversation would have been like 7, 8 months ago.
True.
But I get to discover it today with you.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And this is so true because even the minor events that I've experienced, even in the last day or so, makes me different. You have different information, different data. And we think, like I said, we play Groundhog Day, Bill Murray's Groundhog Day.
You bet. You bet.
That's what we do, but we don't realize that we're always changing, always evolving, and the unfortunate thing is for many of us, we go through our whole life believing that we're the exact same person, not realizing. And like I said, I think that from the people that I've talked to that have gone through your course, I've seen, because a lot of times you're able to go through like someone's YouTube channel, for example, and you can see where a person started, where they were
Right.
before they entered into a course or whatever. And then you look at that individual afterwards and you see this individual impacting corporations, individuals, at a massive level because somewhere along the line in going through your course, they discovered a new identity or a new
You bet.
possibility.
You bet.
Yeah. That's powerful. Yeah. Yeah.
There's nothing better to do, is there?
It is.
Serve
No.
less.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. what acted as there's something that from that little boy that was going through the cornfield, getting the information, becoming a prison guard, becoming a law enforcement officer, something happened along the way that said it's time for me to make a transition. From the PTSD. What
Yep.
do you recall that point of transformation for you? And I do want to get into your promise story, but let's hit this first, and then we'll talk about the promise for you.
Wow. I'll give you the vague version first.
Okay.
Somebody cared.
Okay.
And when I was in my darkest place, DeCarlo, somebody cared. And that opened up the door to me discovering, give us today our daily bread.
Yeah.
And the little trinkets that I needed started showing up, the little truth bombs. And this leads into the promise experience as I became more and more interested only in truth, because I figured truth would bring me peace. I I think there's something profound that happens when you experience the profoundness. This sounds very Yoda-ish, but but it's like after waking up, after stepping out of the hellish fires, uh, how could I do anything other than something that would bless people? I tried, yeah, and I had to take temp jobs every now and then as I was trying to find out my message and how it all, yeah, how teaching worked and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, I was talking with one of the swim teachers today. She's a lovely young girl. And I told her, says, first of all, you're always here. They must pay you well. And she just laughed. And I said, second of all, I want to tell you, you're really good at what you do. I watch the way you interface with the kids, and you keep them attentive yet spellbound. And you are saving and transforming lives. And she told me, she goes, you know what? I could never do anything else. And I said, I got it.
Yeah, me too.
I totally got it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Me too. I also get it, and we get to a place, the truth be told, only thing we want to serve, and we want to serve with the gifts that we know, whatever they look like.
Yep.
And, you know, I don't think that there's any greater gift than to be able to serve with your gift, because there's a whole bunch of people that are living that are miserable, and they don't believe that they can make a living serving with their gifts. But the truth of the matter is, you can't make a living doing anything else. You call it living. You know what I'm saying? You call it living,
Yeah.
but
You
that's
can
not
make it
what it
get by.
exactly. Even if you're
Yeah.
wealthy, if you're wealthy and miserable, is
Yep.
it really living? And many people make that compromise. And there's nothing wrong with wealth, but get wealthy doing what you're passionate about. And
You bet.
no matter what it is, somebody is getting wealthy doing it. No matter
Yep.
what occupation you can think of, there's somebody in the world making noodle for your caboodle.
That's it.
Making, you know what I'm saying? They're making boatloads of money. And again, that doesn't need to be the goal, but I'm just making a point. No matter what it is that you can think of, somebody's making money watching TV. Somebody else is making money eating pizza, and they're talking about their pizza experience or whatever. You can't think of anything that you love doing that somebody somewhere in the world is not making a lot of money doing that which you want to do.
Mm. For years I've been saying you are God having the adventure of a lifetime. And it's only been in the past 5-6 months I started saying it in a different way. You are how God has the adventure of a lifetime. And since you are how God has the adventure of a lifetime, wouldn't it make sense to have an adventure do what you enjoy, allow the peace and prosperity to flow through you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, when you pass another human being, lift them up.
Mm.
Be kind. You know, share what uplifts you, and you will uplift those who you're sharing. Why not?
I was talking to Jerry sometime back, probably about 6 months. I don't know if it was when he came down to Atlanta, but anyway, he was talking about his visit to Australia, and he
Oh,
was just
lovely.
saying how much you love the people there, but how much they loved you too. He was talking about the experience of going into town with you, and
You bet.
just how it was just this welcoming community of people just embracing and loving one another. And so, um, just yeah, like I said, it's just people's lives are being transformed. Uh, Sometimes even when we don't know that we're doing it. So I just want to congratulate you on that and just let you know that even if you don't hear it, you're making a difference, and it's really appreciated. So, like I said, I will definitely make sure that the appropriate links are linked because there's going to be somebody that's going to take the course and their life's going to be impacted. There's a lot of trolls out there and haters out there. We can't stop them. Our job
And
is,
that's all right.
yeah, to pour ourselves out, to be as scripture says, a drink offering, so to pour ourselves out and do what it is that we're to do. But I wanted to make sure that we touched on the Neville Goddard, talked about your journey. Is there, now we've even talked about the 30-day journey. Is there, besides the one that's coming up in April, is there anything that you want to emphasize or anything you want to communicate about that, or something that,
Uh,
yeah.
Probably one of the things I don't talk about enough. We've got a little website called howtofeelitreal.com,
Mm.
and it's devoted to one thing: how to feel it real. And we give away 7 little lessons. It's an email list. You sign up for the email. We send you the 7 lessons, and I send you another little thing and a little marketing message every day. And you can quit at any time, that kind of stuff. So we always talk about that. But that little website to me is probably the cornerstone of, like, hey, let's get the basics right.
Yeah.
Let me send you 7 days of little videos, 15, 20 minutes max, our gift. If you want to buy something, buy something.
Yeah.
If you don't, I really don't care.
Yeah.
I just want you to do something different so you have a different life. I want you to notice your imaginal experience is what leads all your experience. And that right there, howtofeelitreal.com. They'll see me sitting in the garden. We'll share something cool every day. I'll say, hey, if you want to buy something, buy something. If you don't, that's all right, no biggie. But I just want people to do what matters, so they discover that they matter.
Yeah. I want to talk about that for a second. And I have a concern when we're talking about especially like the Neville Goddard community, because that's something that's close to me. And you're talking about how to feel it real. I think that this is a challenge. Many people don't know how to clothe themselves in who it is that they want to do, be, or have. You understand what I'm saying? So
Yes.
they look at it like wishful thinking. They think that they take the principles of Neville and they just think positively about them. And
Yep.
all of a sudden, their life is transformed. They don't understand that they have to become, clothe themselves, feeling
Yeah.
it real until it becomes real. And
Yep.
the funny thing is, we do everything in life like this. This is how we move from childhood to adulthood.
Yes.
As
Yes.
children, we make believe when we say, I want to be a fireman, I want to be a police officer, I want to be an instructor, I want to be a teacher. We say these things growing up, and then all of a sudden we step into these shoes, but we think with the Neville Goddard principles, somehow it's different. let's kind of discuss that. What's the blockage that you discover with most people when it comes to the Neville Goddard principles?
I think the number one thing is they turn this into work.
Okay.
And by work, I mean you do something now for a paycheck later.
Yeah.
On the other hand, if we let it be a passion, an expression, an experience of ourselves, uh, when I feel it real, great daily example. Every day before I get out of bed, one of the things that I experience is my experience of Victoria's Yum.
Mm.
We eat one meal a day. It's a damn good meal, right?
I've
You can
seen them.
always see our, you
I've
can
seen
see them
them.
on Facebook, right? So this is my thing, and I don't get out of bed until I surrender to that experience, my experience of her yum, completely. And what happens is I get to have that yum twice, once in bed, once at the dinner.
Got it.
And that to me makes all the difference because Neville Goddard says in the four mighty ones, the fourth mighty one is the actor.
Yeah.
The actor, there's this cosmic genius quote about actors. And the cosmic genius quote about actors is a good actor doesn't pretend. A good actor reacts from the character they've chosen to be.
Yeah.
When I react to the world as a happy, loving husband, even when I'm single, women perceive me as husband material.
Absolutely.
And now I'm married. When I react to the world as a happy, loving teacher, even when I had nobody learning anything from me because I just wanted to teach, people started bothering me to teach them things. I had my first coaching client was a fellow named Mike. Mike studied martial arts with me when he was like 9 years old. He came back when he was in his 20s. He bothered me to teach him martial arts. I quit teaching groups and he started paying me for privates. And after about 3 months, he said, I don't want to do karate with you anymore. I just want to talk to you. He got so much out of us simply talking while we're doing martial arts stuff. He said, I really don't want to do martial arts anymore. I just want to talk to you. And that was when I discovered this passion for sharing this stuff couldn't even be stopped. They chose it even when I wasn't. So it's fascinating how when you move into the identity you've chosen, it affects your behaviors, your perceptions. I've got a definition of a scene and the definition of a state. Everybody's confused about what a state is.
Yeah.
They think it's an emotion or a thought. And I made this up because I find it true. A state is how you experience what you experience. And when you get a scene is how you experience what you experience. I can see the electric bill, which has gone up 35% in the past year.
Yeah.
And I can see it and have that response, or I can see it and know it's no big deal because I'm provided for because of what I imagine.
Yeah.
So a scene and a state, both are how you experience what you experience.
Mm.
When you get that, it's not about making a movie. It's not about chanting for 10 hours a day. It's not about making lists. It's about you experiencing you and your world as you would if that wish were fulfilled.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's funny, it goes back to it's what we're doing anyway. Now, the challenge is we tend to imagine what we don't want. So, of course, what we don't want continues to show up. With what you're saying, if it's abundance, if it's me teaching, if it's me being in a loving relationship, and I'm experiencing that now, because that's what Neville was talking about, experiencing it now, going to the end is
Yep.
experiencing it now. All of a sudden, it's not somebody we're trying to become, it's who we are.
It's who you are.
It's who we are.
Yes.
Yeah.
I had
Yeah.
a girl from high school reach out to me. Remember, I threw the book away, but I ripped a few pages out.
Yeah.
And this girl, Tina, reaches out to me and she said, I always knew you would go far. Now, this is 1983, 84 when I was in high school.
Yeah.
And she reached out to me while I'm in Australia. Let's assume it was at least 2014, a couple years into the experience. So this is decades later. So I asked her, how'd you know? Because I was the odd kid. I was the weird kid. I was an athlete, but I was a geek. I'd never really fit in with any crowd. I was sort of a tertiary with all the crowds. And she said, you were different. You were self-directed. And I thought, oh, I get it. Even back then, I was imagining something other than where I was.
Hmm.
So do you want to know what I think the number one superpower is?
What's that?
Acceptance. And it's not accepting who you've been or what you physically see, but it's accepting what you've chosen. When we can honestly accept it, we stop maintaining the distance. When you and I could finally find a time and a space that was acceptable, this dance began. We have to accept.
Yeah. I'm actually taking it in right now because I know what's being said is true. And when you said it, and I experienced it, when I started thinking about, things that I wanted to see show up in my life. And the moment you said that, and I allowed acceptance just for that moment, it
Yes.
resonated. You understand? It resonated with me almost immediately. And I thought to myself, it is a superpower. And I think that people who will watch this video will go back and they'll start looking at whatever it is that they want. Because we
Yes.
talk about personas, clothing ourselves, and it really is accepting. I was thinking about a young man. I've been watching this young man recently. His name is Carl. Um, I want to make sure he's from Sweden, but Carl was a young man that 5 years ago he worked in a grocery store. Runfield. It's Runefilt, something to that effect. But Carl is living in Dubai now. 5 years ago, Carl started using the law of attraction. He was working in a grocery store, cashier, high school diploma, and stocking shelves. And he decided that he wanted to be rich. He started accepting, he started putting things in his path, vision boards and things like that, so that it would change his psyche. He started getting into different, he didn't know where the money was going to come from. And so one thing led to another, and he ended up getting into cryptocurrency. Today, 5 years later, the young man's worth under 30, about ready to turn 30, $1 billion. Now, money's not everything. And what it does, if nothing else, it gives us options. It does money doesn't make you happy. A miserable person with money becomes a miserable person with money. It doesn't make you happy.
Right.
But what it does do is give you options. Now this young man is literally traveling all over the world, but he did what you stated just a moment ago. He accepted that identity. He clothed
Yep.
himself. He started walking and he started living from it. He did what you did so many years ago before, moving to Australia and so forth. You start clothing yourself as a teacher. You started pouring out. You started giving from where you were at the moment.
You bet.
Everybody wants to start off big. Everybody wants to just step right into it, but they don't understand there's a growth process that we have to go through. Some of us quicker than others, but we all have to go through it. I think that many people in our community, they want to bypass, somehow or another, they've taken from Neville that you can bypass the learning curve. The learning curve is different for everyone, but we all have to go through it. And I think that many people are trying, so they go from teacher to teacher, study to study, program to program, spending years trying to bypass the learning curve, and they're missing just accepting and being who it is, experiencing who they want to be, just living in the moment of who it is that they want to be. And then everything changes. Powerful. Good stuff. Good stuff.
We are.
Yeah. 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 Mm. Yeah.
You know, you mentioned the young man, and I get people that write to me all the time about different things. And it doesn't matter how many sessions you do, vision boards you make, chants that you have, special prayers, how many books.
True.
If you don't accept the truth about you,
Absolutely.
and if you don't accept your wish fulfilled, you're just wasting sticky tape.
Yeah.
On the other hand, when you accept, and it's a responsibility, and I don't mean blame by that. I mean it's the ability to respond as happy, loving husband. I got snippy with my wife today. We were walking in, and I said something, and I realized, whoa, that didn't come out nice. It's where I was at the moment, but it wasn't nice.
Yeah.
I don't want that to cross. So I revised it, and I told her, I says, look, I didn't mean to come off that way. I apologize. And then we're over it.
Yeah.
But having this ability to return to the state of happy, loving husband, not disgruntled, right? Because we all have endless states we can go into.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But the faster you can notice, yeah, I stepped in dog poop.
Yeah.
Now what? Hose it off.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's nice.
Yeah. And I appreciate this story because I think a lot of times, again, we have so many people, and I think that many are well meaning. They give the impression that once you start doing this work, problems don't happen. I had a gentleman that was going to come and remove some trees from my yard. I had a limb fall down, so I had to get some work done,
Yep.
get it cut up and so forth. Anyway, the guy was going to come. He said $150. I thought to myself, I'm going to save a couple of dollars. I'm gonna go get a U-Haul, cut it up myself and get it moved, and it cost me at a tune of $500.
I got it.
Got the U-Haul in my truck. Got the U-Haul in my yard. Because of the type of grass, probably grass period, couldn't get it off the yard. And so the more I tried, go back to relaxing and quit working so hard. But the more I tried, the deeper I got into the yard.
Yep.
And so the whole point is life happens to all of us. And only thing I could do at that point was visualize seeing the truck gone. Not the how, but just knowing that I was going to be on the other side of this and whatever it took to make that happen. A lot of times when we're in these communities and we're talking, a lot of times we want to bypass the challenge and we just want everything to be okay. But sometimes you have to go through the valley to get to the other side. Sometimes we snap, sometimes we're irritable, sometimes we may not say the right thing at the right moment. But once that's acknowledged, we acknowledge it and we move forward, you know? And like you said, you revise. Many people don't realize that we're all human and we all have, various challenges, sometimes with ailments, whatever. But you said something a moment ago, our respond ability, our ability
Yes.
to respond, and it's powerful, but also even not as powerful as what you said earlier, just are accepting that new role that we've clothed
Yes.
ourselves in. I mean, if I could get somebody to get that, if they didn't take anything else away from our talk and them saying, okay, I want to be this. Many times, and you've heard it, they say, I want to be this, whatever this is.
Yep.
And then a month happens, 2 months, a year happens, 5 years. They say, this stuff doesn't work because I've been trying for 5 years. You don't try, you just become. You know what I'm talking about
Yep.
when I say this. And most people that are in these communities don't understand accepting, as you stated earlier, that new role. And because it's not been taught to us. That's not There's something that has to click in your psyche. It's in the Christian experience, we call it being born again. When I was
Yep.
that hell raising kid, and all of a sudden somebody said that you accept Jesus as your Lord and Savior. And again, the goal is not to make this religious, but I'm just bringing it. It's like going through a door. You cross the path of that doorway, and you realize when you step through that door, you're not the same person.
Yep. You're different.
Whatever you call that experience. I don't Like I said, I don't want to. I'm just using Christianity as that tool that I use. But I knew that when I made that decision, I wasn't the same person anymore. And the change didn't happen immediately. And it's like when I made the decision with Neville Goddard and I crossed over, I can never go back to what I know as traditional Christianity.
You
And
bet.
I get a lot of flack from, but I understand where the flack comes from because I was that person. And
Yep.
I'm feeling like you're trying to take something away from me, and but it can't be taken. It's just really a more of a realization of who we are. But as we're winding down, I do want to still touch on one experience that we haven't talked about. Um,
Yes.
you talked about when you revisit Neville, you had your own promise experience. And the reason why I want to hear yours is because I want people to know that everybody's experience isn't always like Neville's. Mine's wasn't totally like Neville's. There were some things that were similar, but then there were some things that were totally different in my own experience. But if you're open to sharing, what was that experience like for you?
I can tell you the most terrifying part was literally when it felt as though the lightning came down and then up the spine, or it was the other way. I couldn't tell you. But I remember reading somewhere, hearing one of Neville's lectures that he thought he was having a stroke.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, baby, very real. Literally, the curtain was ripped from top to bottom.
Yeah.
The other, and I shook for about 8 months.
Hmm.
I'd walk and it looked like I had Parkinson's. It was just like I was literally electrocuted from the inside out, and felt the rock move and all that stuff. It was just really fascinating. But I'm free. I'm more than my physical body, but I was still settling into things, trying to find it all. Second thing, which was a little different and unique, was I experienced the babe as Krishna. I was doing a lot of reading in that part of uh, the literature at that time, and I'll never forget this because so all that happened, and I was having these mystical, magical experiences, you could say. Uh, and of course, I'm wondering if I'm losing my mind, thinking I'm having a stroke, finding everything and everyone incredibly lovely, like just you know, just the majesticness of it all. But I think to me, the biggest part of it was the realization of I am love. Yeah, the mystical, magical was there. It was real. It was fun. It was terrifying. It was liberating. It was lovely. It was peaceful. It was insane.
Yeah.
But at the end of it all, behind it all, and during it all, was this experience of I am love.
I agree.
It's okay.
Yeah.
The garden grows as the garden grows.
You said something, and I know there's people that kind of chase the promise, and I agree with you. The biggest thing that I took away from my experience, and like you, my child was not, mine's was, olive colored child with black hair. So it wasn't the blonde hair, blue eyes that Neville spoke of. Um,
Right.
but even beyond that, the love portion, because at one point I felt myself engulfed in this entity that, in that, I realized that it was the essence of love. We talk about faith,
Yes.
love, and hope, but the greatest of these is love.
Is love. Yes.
And I found myself enveloped in love,
Yes.
and so I definitely, and there were other things. Now, the funny thing was for myself, at first, I didn't even realize what was taking place. Did you have the benefit? Did you come to realize Neville's after your event, or were you at least aware of?
Great question.
Yeah.
Definitely after. Uh,
Wow.
I was just enjoying laying in bed and feeling at peace.
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah. By the way, I'm not a fan of people chasing the promise. By the way, I think
Yeah.
that's really not smart.
Yeah.
That's just
Yeah.
from experience I've had over the years with other people. But I was just laying in bed, exploring what it was like to just be at
Hmm.
peace, to experience love, and that's when the fun began.
Yeah.
And it was while all this is going on that I remembered, oh yeah, in one of them books, this
Yeah.
guy,
Yeah.
Neville, never Goodard,
Yeah.
Goddard, Goober
Yeah.
guy.
Yeah.
All right, but yeah, it's interesting because my hunger was for truth,
Yeah.
believing it would help me find peace,
Yeah.
and what I found is what we are is love.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's funny. Two things. I agree with you as far as the chasing. Funny thing was, I had wrote the promise off. To be honest with you, before my experience, I wrote it off. Matter of fact, I said I did not need this event for me to
Beauty.
understand my identity with the oneness known as God. I was okay with my relationship with the deity that we call God.
Yep.
And so for me, like I said, when the first portion happened, um,
Yes.
it was the child for me. And the three witnesses, I had no clue. I'm like, what the
Yes.
heck was that? I'm like, what? And then I got the lightning bolt and the uh, golden liquid light and the serpent and so
Yeah.
forth.
Yes. Yes.
But like I said, it wasn't because, matter of fact, like I said, I wrote it off, and I'm like, that's Neville's experience, and it doesn't necessarily have to be mine for me to understand my oneness. So I think in your just enjoying the experience of life, no expectation, there's something in not seeking it that we tend to find it. But when we're
I
chasing it,
totally,
yeah,
totally.
yeah,
It's yeah. For me, the best way I described it in my early years was it felt like a spiritual rewiring.
yeah,
Just, I just,
yeah,
I experienced all kind of cool shit before that,
yeah,
but it was literally like, okay, I'm finally willing to rewire.
absolutely,
So,
absolutely, absolutely. Well, sir, I'm going to be sensitive of your time here. We're like winding down on a minute to go from my clock here.
beauty.
Now, like I said, we'll communicate afterwards so I can get all your links and so forth. I'll take those links, and once I upload the talk to the Neville Goddard Next Generation, I'm also going to put it on my other. I'm looking at doing another YouTube channel, and it's Lifestyle Messengers, and this is
Beauty.
just people that have different experiences, different lifestyles, and so forth. So I want to put it on that one as well. But the first one, I'll just
Right.
upload it to Neville Goddard Next Generation. And like I said, once I get your links, I'll add those links to it. So anybody that's interested as you're watching these videos, like I said, you got the 3D program. And again, that's going to be talking about the dream driven day. And that's a 30-day program. So once we get some dates on that, we'll have the links for that. But what we'll do is at least give you the links to the website. And so as Mr. 2020 updates that, you'll have access to it. So as we're winding down, besides that, anything in closing?
Wow. First of all, thank you for being who you are and what you do.
Thank you.
When I have come across you on the internet, I experience you as simple sincerity and love.
Yeah.
And we need so much more of that in the world. Yeah. And I just want to thank you for showing up.
Thank you.
You know, just for that. My final thought, your desires are divine in origin. Whatever they are, if it's just have a yum with your wife, a conversation with a new friend, to bless the world,
Absolutely.
to have a puppy. All of your desires are divine in origin. Accept them.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Thank you, DeCarlo.
Thank you, sir. This is there's a lot that this is not going to be a one-time listen. If somebody can say that I listened to this one time and I got everything I needed, they've missed it. I think that this is one of those talks that you have to go through repeatedly and just kind of pull the golden nuggets from it. And there are a lot in this talk. So I'm excited for the listeners and what they're going to take away from it. So I thank you also, sir. And hopefully this is not our last talk, but certainly our first.
Let's do it again.
Let's do it again.
All right.
All right, buddy. It's been a pleasure. Have a great one.
Love you, my friend. Thank you.
Love you too, bro. Take care.